Hello!
Welcome back to Inspiration Education.
And here we are, Tucson, Arizona, in the middle of January, and it's like 70 degrees.
The
Sorry, y'all.
bougainvilleas are blooming.
Sorry.
Sorry if you're up in the mid-northwest or wherever it is that you are.
But here we are, episode 22.
Episode 22, and this week we want to talk about active participation.
Awesome. I think when I grasped onto active participation a number of years ago, it was like earth-shattering and mind-blowing, and like, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh yeah, this is something that is so natural to do every day, and I would say that was the number one thing that changed my teaching about, I don't know,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, about 10, 15 years ago. Huh. I don't know, I've been doing this 29 years, so I'm not sure where it all falls in there.
All the years blend together.
Yeah, but at some point it was like an awesome aha. It's like, oh yeah, active participation. So what is it?
Active participation is about having your students engage in the content that you're wanting them to learn, rather than just being bystanders and having them be on receive mode as you're speaking. It's about them actually playing with, if you will, the material that you want them to learn while still being congruent to the objective.
Absolutely. So we've said this before, I think, in other videos. The person doing the talking is doing the learning. This would be a great example of that.
So take a look at this episode, and then we'll be back and we'll kind of break down active participation a little bit more about why you would want to use it and that sort of thing.
Right on.
Okay. Today I am in Mr. Phillips' room. He is our Bible teacher, and he's got a pretty fun project going on for his students today.
Gonzalez.
He's in the middle of taking roll.
Good morning.
Good morning. So tell us really quick, what is this project that you're working on with the students?
We have created a sort of Mad Libs story. Different elements of the story were created by different groups. They didn't know what the other groups were doing, so we've got some characters, we've got a setting, we've got all very disjointed that we brought together to try to make one cohesive story. And the whole point of this is that we understand our story and how we fit into a larger story. We understand life through story.
So the students are taking charge of their learning. You just told me that the students are actually running the entire classroom today.
They got 50 minutes to film the story. Yeah.
Okay, so let's watch and see what these students have come up with.
Okay.
What are you guys working on?
Fire. Because the plane blew up in the story.
Your plane blew up in the story, so you're making the fire for it?
Plane burned.
And then the character is, there are three characters, two guys, one girl, it's like a triangle relationship. And then like the plot is kind of like they are on this plane. Okay, guys, know what you're doing?
I'm gonna wake up and like, oh my god, guys.
So you are on her shoulder.
He is, yeah.
Okay, alright.
Yeah.
Alright, 3, 2, 1, action.
Oh my god, guys. Benedict isn't breathing.
Finally. What are we gonna do?
Oh no, what are we gonna do?
Is there a doctor on the plane? Anybody?
Alright, 3, 2, 1, action.
My goodness, is there a doctor on the plane? Anybody?
Okay, you guys need to react to that. You guys like, oh, like you guys like, oh, what's going on? And then like try to peek, like, wait, why do we need a doctor? You know, like, you know.
So they're reenacting being in a plane right now.
Yes.
And then they're gonna record. They're gonna like put this all together for a full version on Monday.
Identify the elements of story, the setting, the characters, the plot, and the conflict. The idea that, again, life is understood through story. And all the elements of a story like this are still elements of our own story. Our conflict, the characters we interact with. You're a character in my story.
Right now I am.
Yes.
And you are a character in our story, actually.
Yes. And we're all part of a larger story. God's story, which is extended from the beginning of time until He returns.
So how awesome is this that rather than you sitting here lecturing about that, they're actually participating in their own learning. Way to go, Teach.
Thank you.
$950.
You're the worst! Take all our money!
That means you can either give me properties or...
So What are we learning here? What's the point of
Taylor
playing
is
Monopoly?
the worst. That's what we're learning.
So this is Thomas. This is my first time playing Monopoly.
Mine too.
And it's her first time playing
Oh,
Monopoly.
wow.
So
We did the only logical thing, which was team up.
Give up?
Team up.
Oh, team up.
AKA give up. Woo! So we're learning that Monopoly suck.
If you give me the 3 railroads, I'll call you even.
What the heck? No. That's like
You're not gonna get $100.
How's the game going over here, guys?
I'm winning.
Good? You're winning? Oh, my word.
Red is me.
And what is that called when you have all the houses on there? What do you have?
Monopoly.
Monopoly. How's it going over here?
Good. I have most of the train property.
Whatever.
I suckered her out of it.
He pressured me into giving it to him, and I did.
And now people are
You
gonna owe me
pressured her into
Yes.
it? You're a horrible monopolist.
I'm not a horrible monopolist. I'm an economist.
Sure. So what are we learning as we're playing this game?
Opportunity cost.
Opportunity. So I'm here with Dr. Flores. We're in her
Economics class.
Yeah, her economics class. And the students behind us are playing Monopoly, which is perfect, I think, for this week because it's Spirit Week. As you saw, all the kids are in like really funny costumes right now, but still learning even in the midst of a really crazy and fun week.
Yeah.
So what's the point of them playing Monopoly?
We're into our unit on economic structures and economic systems, and we're going to start talking about free enterprise as well as monopolies, oligopolies, and free markets. So the students are looking at Monopoly and trying to figure out, is it good, is it bad, and what are they contributing to GDP and helping economic growth.
Okay. And I was talking with one of the students, and she was saying, oh my gosh, I remember us talking about monopolies in U.S. history class last year, which was in my class, and she was saying that the Monopoly game was originally intended to not be for crushing your opponent as a monopolist, but Lizzie McGee actually intended for the game to be about learning about
Why monopolies are not a good thing for our economy.
right. And so, of course, now. Oh my goodness, Lizzie, I'm so sorry, but your game has not turned out the way you wanted.
The stench of the hold, while we were on the coast, was so intolerably loathsome that it was dangerous to remain there for any time. Now that the whole ship's cargo were confined together, it became absolutely pestilential. The closeness of the place and the heat of the climate, added to the number in the ship being so crowded that each had scarcely room to turn himself, almost suffocated us. This produced copious perspirations, so that the air soon became unfit for respiration, and brought on a sickness among the slaves, of which many died.
We'll do like 3 minutes. I'm gonna actually get a stopwatch. Okay, I'm gonna get a stopwatch. And when we're done, each assembly line group will count how many widgets you've made, and each individual group will count yours. We'll write it on the board, we'll average it out, and we'll find out which group made the most widgets. Are you ready?
No, I'm holding the GoPro.
Got it.
Oh, dang it.
Set.
Matthew.
Go.
Matthew, hurry up.
Make your widgets nice, everybody.
It's gotta be good. Gotta be good.
Nice? Is that nice? That's pretty nice.
Okay, why is this paper so thick? Keep them going. Michael, you did this in Asia.
Oh my gosh, Devin, that was almost just catastrophic.
Wait, you're not getting. I have the hardest to fold. I feel like some papers aren't exactly.
If I get a paper cut, I'm gonna be so sad.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hope you enjoyed that. There was 4 examples for you from a high school level on how to engage your students in active participation.
Right on.
And we purposely wanted to give you some examples from the high school level because I think sometimes, don't you agree, that we wind up at the high school and even at the middle school level, we kind of almost like lose our imagination.
Sometimes we get into lecture mode where it's really teacher oriented, and so we would love to remind you that this active participation is a great way to make your learning a little bit more, or maybe a lot more, student-centered. But it also allows for differentiation and for the different modalities of learning and so on.
Right.
And so sometimes I think we get into, we've got a lecture, and that's rigor. So we want to be really careful about that.
Right. Active participation, just because we also want to remember that just because your students are actually doing something doesn't necessarily mean that they're learning.
This is true.
Right?
Right. And so that's why we want to try and 100% of the students 100% of the time, congruent with your objective or your learning target.
So like, for example, with the middle passage in my classroom with the students laying on the ground, were they actually learning something? They were actively participating in attempting to recreate what it would have been like to be on that ship. But what you didn't see that was cut out then was that we debriefed it together in small groups, and we talked about it. Have had students in the past have to actually excuse themselves from the classroom because they are of an African American descent, and it was so intense for them, and they were so appreciative of me attempting to have other people be able to understand what it was like for their ancestors. So we talk about it. We did like a watercolor afterwards to kind of get our emotions out on the paper.
Active participation with our students can be either overt or covert. And in this case, they're laying on the floor. How are you sure that they're participating? Because you are assuming that they're participating in a covert way. But you followed it up with at least 2 different ways of debriefing it. You had small group discussions, and my guess is you let the kids lead those discussions.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you did a watercoloring activity to help people get the imagery out of their heads and out onto paper. And then I'm sure there was something else. So there are ways to formatively assess what's going on after the active participation.
Right.
So by the by, active participation gives you checks for understanding.
It does.
And helps you with your formative assessments. So
I have a great example for you.
Go.
Checks for understanding. Okay. So yesterday, Chan and I led a professional development for all of our colleagues at the high school, middle, and all the way down to preschool, actually.
Yeah, preschool
all
to 12.
All of our colleagues. And so one of the things that we were trying to impart, the thing we were trying to impart is teacher collaboration. And so I had some feedback today in the teacher's lounge over lunch where one of the teachers said, okay, so I went home and I talked about how I wanted to do things differently. And then this teacher went back the next day, today, and instead of doing a regular assignment that they did, this teacher had his middle school students, instead of just reading a chapter and having them fill in a test, they had one student read a portion of the chapter while the other student became the teacher and wound up asking questions. So they were actively engaging in the learning rather than just being almost bystanders where you're just sort of like remotely learning and then just, robotically writing answers down.
Or letting the teacher just be the interpreter of the text.
Exactly. Yeah. And the teacher said that I've never done such little talking and had my students learn so much. That's what it's
the
like.
idea.
Yeah.
That's exactly the idea. Right on.
So,
props.
So you mentioned earlier, I just want to dig into that for a quick minute, different modalities of learning. So with your active participation, you can offer your students, this a kinesthetic type of learning where they're actually doing hands-on type of learning. Writing is important, right? Reading and writing and speaking, that's all really, really important. But sometimes feeling and touching, like you saw with the assembly line, where they're actually like physically trying to work out what's faster, assembly line or working on your own. helps cement that kind of content?
You know, I did that recently. I had my students vote on what they think about with the ethics of genetic engineering. Completely no genetic manipulation, some plants and animals only, only for medical reasons, or full on, you know, all genetic engineering is good and all manipulation DNA is good. So there were 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I was talking about it. My daughter is a Desert Christian graduate and she loves this kind of thing. And I said, yeah, I'll just have them write the number down on a slate and hold it up. And she's like, no. Remember, you have physical learners. They need to stand up. And so I created and I've done it before, but a 4-corner vote, right? And they have to stand up, they have to move, and they have to actually go engage other people and talk to other people instead of just, okay, I'm just going to write any random number on the slate. They actually had to get up and move and discuss about what they thought. I'm like, just, again, one small collaboration helped me to elevate my active participation. Because they did have active participation, right? But to have them move and to talk, gosh, that elevated it.
Here's one more example for you. So today I changed the structure of my class where students were supposed to come in and have a small mini group book club discussion and then write down their findings from the book club. Well, today I changed it to a Socratic seminar. So instead of a mini book club, they had to come in and actually orally prove their thoughts through the book and that kind of thing. So it changed the whole dynamics of the classroom. So that's one way that you can take your active participation, which already existed, but then elevate it even more, where now your audience is, your final audience for your formative assessment, which was just me, became all of their peers.
I've been talking a lot with our elementary school teachers about how they do this. And one of the number one things that's come out of those conversations is that they're really training their kids how to interact cooperatively. So a number of them have question stems out on the kids' desks or up on the board, and they're training the kids on statements to make when they make an opinion, when they want to disagree, when they want to build on ideas. And so not only are they teaching the kids on how to engage in an active manner when they speak, but they're also teaching them life skills, how to speak to other people. So cooperative learning, if you ever get a chance to take a cooperative learning workshop of some sort, that is where you can really begin to elevate some of your active participation techniques.
So there you go. Maybe in a math class, you have a student teaching another student a new concept.
Wow.
I'm not a math teacher, so that was just something I thought of right off the top of my head. But, you know, think maybe they could come up with a way to something in the news that you could apply to math. So I don't know. We'll think more about that. Maybe that'll be a future vlog. How can we engage those math teachers out there?
Well, that's fun. I mean, something as simple as active participation, but it does wonders in a world of good and can revolutionize your classroom.
Okay.
We would love for you guys to comment on the discussion threads on our channel. Give us some more ideas. Give each other more ideas.
What do you want to hear from us?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Come on, episode 22. We've got at least 18 or so more to go. We would love to hear from you.
Before the end of the school year. Oh my gosh.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, and it is a lot of fun. So
cool.
All right. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.